Hi everybody, I'm Stacy Juba, a fiction author, developmental editor, and the founder of Shortcuts for Writers. Today I'm going to give you a tour of 7 websites that can help you to name your characters. I also have a freebie for you, so make sure you watch till the end. Regardless of whether you finish your draft or are in the early stages of writing the book, it's important to assess whether your name choices do the story justice. It can be hard to pluck the perfect name from thin air, but luckily you have plenty of options to find inspiration. The first site we're going to explore is called Random Name Generator. And this is a really useful site if you just need to come up with some quick names, maybe for some minor characters, supporting characters, or walk-ons who you don't feel you really need to give a lot of thought to as far as deeper meaning or symbolism. You just need some names that sound authentic, sound realistic. So here you can come to this little box and specify how many names you want to get back. So I'll type 100. You can choose the gender, and then you can also decide whether you want common and average sounding names or a more unusual one. So you hit generate random names, and you can see that it gives us a huge selection. And if you wanted to, you could mix and match. Like you could take a first name, such as Faith, and pair it up with a last name from a different entry, such as Warner, Faith Warner. And if you still didn't see anything you liked, you just hit it again and it'll give you a whole bunch more choices. Okay, so a great site if you're in a hurry and you just need to come up with some quick names for your more minor characters. The next site, which I really like, it's called Social Security Popular Names Database. And this is really useful if you need to find a believable sounding name for a character born in the United States who has kind of a more straightforward name, because again, this is a popular name directory, but who is born in a certain time period or is of a certain age. For example, if you wanted to come up with a realistic sounding name for your character's grandfather, you could put in a year from around the time you imagined he would have been born. And there you go. It gives you the 10 most popular male names from 1943. James, Robert, John, William, Richard, if you needed a name for grandmother or great aunt. Mary, which is actually my grandmother's name. Barbara, Patricia, Linda, Carol, Sandra. So a really useful site if you needed a name for character's mother, maybe who was born in the 1970s, 1974, and then we get some names that were popular in 1974. Jennifer, Amy, Michelle, Heather, Angela. If you needed a character's name, like a teenager's name, something more modern, you could type in a more modern year, and then we got Emily, Emma, Madison, Hannah, Olivia, Jacob, Michael, Joshua, Matthew, Andrew. And so again, a really useful site if you're looking to name characters of a certain age. And the next site is very different from the first two. It's a really fun site. It's actually called Name Generator Fun. And this site has tons of different categories you can explore. So you can explore band names, business names, character names. Basically anything can be a character name, but this one has, for example, if you're writing an urban fantasy book or a romance novel, you can click on those categories and it'll give you back some names that would fit those genres. But any of these would really be useful to you, depending what you're looking for. Fairy names, fantasy names is a really good site for the fantasy and sci-fi writers. Elf Name Generator, I think I used the site for my book Fooling Around with Cinderella. The grandfather in the book is really obsessed with garden gnomes, and he likes to hide them and make family members find them, and he comes up with these long, crazy names. I mean, I never could have just come up with a name off the top of my head. That's how crazy the names are. So I either used this Elf Name Generator or a Alfred Dwarf Name Generator on another site, and it came up with the perfect names for his garden gnomes, which I never would have thought of myself in a million years. Funny Name Generator, Japanese, Korean names. This site also has tons of names for different countries for characters who are descended from of descent, like from French descent, Italian descent. If you explore, you'll find a ton of those. Sci-fi names. So this is a really interesting site. So let's click on sci-fi names. Okay, generate some male names. Okay. Oop. All right. Ray Asimov, Haley Salamander, Griffin Vega. And again, you can mix and match. You don't have to take anything verbatim, but you might say, oh, that's a really cool last name. Let me keep looking and see if I can find a first name. Buck Solar Warrior. Remember the show Buck Rogers? Steampunk names. I did a search earlier on this site for pet names and came up with some cute names. Jingles, Wolfie, Billy. Okay, so you get the idea. This is tons and tons of different categories you can explore. Okay, the next site is called Nameberry. Oh my goodness, how adorable is that? From Avery to Zephyr, Nameberry is a complete guide to thousands of amazing baby names. So when I was first started writing back in the dark ages, at least you younger writers might think that when you hear that there was no internet back then, so I had to actually use a physical baby book. And that's how I came up with my character names, by browsing baby books, and also telephone directories. I'd flip through those and make lists of names I liked, and then I would just mix and match first and last names. But the baby books are especially helpful, and in these online baby directories also especially helpful because they have tons and tons of lists. For example, unique girl names, vintage baby names, names from around the world, cool names, classic names, names with interesting meanings, contemporary names, and this, if we click this, I'm sure there's tons and tons more. Oh, pretty. Unusual, rare, and unique. Birthday names, celebrity names, names from the arts and pop culture. Bible names. Fancy boy names, alternatives to Lucy. Old lady names. So it's great for naming your characters, and not just babies, obviously. I mean, any character. And these are useful because if you're trying to come up with a name that fits a certain image, for example, if you had the lead in your romance novel was kind of a tough guy who's in a band or rides a motorcycle, you might want to look at a list like badass baby names for some ideas. So Blaze, Buck, Buster, Blade, Axel. So you could definitely come up with some unique names from a site like Nameberry. Okay, so the next site we're going to explore is called BehindTheName.com, and this is different from the other sites. This is really, it tells you the root and history of first names, and there's different categories, African names, Asian, European, so a great site to come to if you need to find some more multicultural names for your book. Ancient, medieval, biblical, names inspired by literature, history, popular culture. So if you already had a name for your character, you could look it up here, and just out of curiosity to see what it means. So let's say your character's name was, Sophia. You could click it here, it just happens to be there, or we can just Do a search for it. Sophia means wisdom in Greek. So can you do anything with that? Did her parents name her that because intelligence was important to them? Did they put a lot of pressure on her academically? Does she feel wise? Does she live up to that? I mean, maybe it's not relevant. You might not want to go in that direction at all, but it could inspire something. It could trigger something, and you might want to choose a name based on the meaning and kind of explore that in the book. Because again, remember that names also tell you something about the parents and the image that they had in mind for the child. So it's interesting. It can really take you in some interesting directions when you kind of explore the different names and give some thought to it. And again, if you're looking for like a French name, here's a whole bunch of ideas. Okay, so that was behindthename.com. What we're going to explore is the Reedsy character name generator. So you can use filters such as language, gender, and fantasy, and even discover the meaning behind your favorites. So we have names from all over the world you can get suggestions for, medieval names, god names, fantasy names, so a good site for fantasy authors, archetype names, villains, heroes, sidekicks. So if you needed some Russian names, if you don't like any of these, you can just click it again. Okay, and again, you don't have to take the whole name. You could just take the first name, take the last name. It definitely will give you some inspiration. If you needed a dragon name, here's some suggestions. So again, this is reedsy.com. And the last site we're going to explore is actually a gold mine. It's called fantasynamegenerators.com. This site has fairy names, vampire names, gargoyle names, evil names, unicorn names, knight names. So you name it, this site has it. So you can see the variety here. Robot names, real names, so Danish, Czech, Italian, so good site for the more names from different countries. You can keep hitting it for more suggestions. I really like, on the site, I really like the place names. So it has ideas for like amusement park names, bakery names, bridge names, beaches, cities and towns, forests, hospitals, mansions. I mean, if you needed to come up with some names for the places in your book, even a pizzeria, this is a great site. Restaurant names, theaters. So what should we click on? How about pizzeria names? Joe Business Pizzeria, the Pizza Mara Pizzeria, Do Re Mi Pizzeria. Clever. So even if you didn't take something verbatim, it definitely could get your the creative juices flowing and start you down another direction. There's also something pop culture, names from different books, TV shows, movies. So a really interesting site, especially for fantasy writers. But again, if you just need to jazz up your settings, fantasynamegenerators.com is a great site to come to. So I hope you enjoyed this tour. I have an article on the Shortcuts for Writers blog that goes into a lot more detail on the things you should consider before choosing your characters' names. I also have a freebie with the main points from the article and a list of these 7 sites that we did a tour of. I'll leave those links below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with someone who might find it helpful. Now I want to hear the inspirations for your character names. Leave me a comment with the name of one of your characters and why you chose it. Thanks for watching, and let's make editing simple.